So today, I received a question from parents that I think is really worthwhile looking at, given that it's the hunting season on students is just about to happen, i.e. the exam season is about to overtake our lives. So I'm just going to have a little riff on this question. So let me read it out to you first of all. So it's from a mum who says, and I'm having to read this. She says, my child got top grades in all their mock GCSEs except for 2. And she's completely obsessed about those 2 slightly lower grades, to the point where we almost couldn't celebrate her as amazing achievements. And then mum goes on to say, I'm worried that this is going to be even worse when she does her actual GCSEs, and I want to try and help her get some perspective. So this is what we're talking about today. And do please type in the comments that if you know this one, if this is something that also, if perfectionism is stalking your family. So perfectionism is not about the grades. It's about what you make the grades believe about yourself. And perfectionism looks like ambition from the outside, but from the inside, it's a prison and it's horrible. And I have lived it. I have been in that prison. Maybe not to the extent that your daughter is. There are grades of it, but I certainly know it. And funnily enough, this morning I was looking at the work that my brilliant support has done in YouTube. I had a look at that. I have got a TV channel now, believe it or not, Inga's TV, and so I had a quick look at it, and there are all these stills of all the videos I've done, and I was just like, oh my God, I look like such a freak. And a few years ago, I would not have been able to do that, because I wouldn't have been able to do something where I didn't look perfect. So let's dive into perfectionism and what it is and what it isn't. So first thing to know is that perfectionism is not about, it's not the same as high standards. Even though it looks identical from the outside, the distinction is, healthy striving, how can I improve, versus perfectionism, what will they think? It's about performance, it's about how you look, how you show up, how you're perceived. All energy for perfectionists is outwardly faced. It's towards the verdict of others. It is not inwards towards genuine growth, because mistakes are not allowed. And we all know we have to fail to learn. Failure is just a learning. And often, emotions around it are very messy and feel like mistakes, so they're not allowed either. And the thing is that no result ever will satisfy. It's always striving, but you never arrive, because the goalposts always move. Because the real question beneath it is, am I enough? It's never about the grades, it's about worth, self-worth. There's kind of 3 core beliefs that are run underneath this perfectionism. And one is, I am not worthy unless I perform perfectly. So every result is a test of whether this kid, this daughter of yours, gets to feel okay about herself today. I can only feel good about myself if my teacher gives me a good grade. You outsource your happiness to other people, and that's a precarious place to be. And the other belief is, I'm not lovable unless I'm perfect. So love feels conditional, even if it isn't. And the third one is slightly different, but it's like, if I can't do it perfectly, why bother? This is the, oh, well, I just did my homework on the bus, because then if you don't get a good grade, it doesn't matter so much. You've already got an excuse, you did it on the bus. And it's sort of what drives procrastination and avoidance. And I bet you your daughter does not believe that does not know that she has those beliefs. They just feel like facts to her. The trouble with perfectionists is that it's very, very hard to convince them that it's not a good way to be. Because they're absolutely convinced that this is the way to be. Why wouldn't I want to be like this? And the thing is that perfectionism is a learnt behavior. It is not innate, and kind of that's the hopeful part. So where it comes from can be if the environment at home is somewhere where emotional mess is not safe. If crying is falling apart, if mistakes triggers a parent's distress, then a child will learn that, my mess is dangerous. It can come from being in chaotic or unpredictable environments where, like, being good, being perfect, being quiet was a strategy for managing things that were unmanageable. And of course, environments, schools, where praise flows almost entirely around performance, grades, results, achievements. It doesn't have to be unkind, but it is a pattern. And of course, your daughter has noticed that. And where we have a perfectionist parent who learned this same behavior, these things do get passed down in families. And I say that not as judgment at all, but look at how you might catastrophize your own mistakes. Look at how you might not be able to rest till everything is done. Look at how you're always trying to prove that you're good enough, because our children absorb what we do far more than what we say. And so, we have these league tables. Schools are just entirely focused on kind of streaming and grades and ranking and outcomes, and always rewarding results, not the effort. And that's structurally, that's like a perfectionist nightmare. And we have the social media, every curated feed that says everyone else is achieving completely effortlessly. The comparison is just constant. Comparing, comparatonitis, as I like to call it. And the price of perfectionism, so I looked at these YouTube stills of myself this morning, and it just made me laugh. But earlier in my life, that would have just freaked me out and stopped me entirely. So there is a real cost to perfectionism that we mustn't underestimate. It often causes kind of chronic exhaustion, burnout, anxiety, stress. You're always on that treadmill, always striving, never arriving, always performing, always putting energy out, always looking for, out there, and nothing's coming back in. And emotionally, that you just become dissatisfied. You get this sort of dissatisfaction that no achievement really can touch, and if it does, it's only really briefly. It's like you get a piece of work back, and you just go for the one missing comma, and then that's a total failure. Slightest criticism, one lower grade, throwaway comment from someone equals total failure. And the self-talk that goes with that is savage. That inner critic, it's just like, it's not like, well, I can do better tomorrow. Oh, no, I'm useless. I'm bad. I'm hopeless. I'm a failure. And, in 30 seconds from just noticing a small imperfection to believing that, I'm fundamentally not enough and I never will be. And I think the other cost of perfectionism is, kind of spiritually, when value and meaning just come entirely from your performance, you're never really truly present or connected. You're always slightly outside of your own life, watching how it looks rather than living it. It's kind of a deep emptiness that no grade can ever fill. And if we don't address this in our lives, that will follow into A levels, into relationships, into work, and the way that she talks to herself at 40. And I know that because it happened to me. So, but what you can do for now, is like the obvious responses won't work, like the logical brain switched on, but look at all those amazing grades you got in the other, however many, 8 subjects. I mean, yeah, she'll nod, yeah. But the inner critic will just be back at her, instantly, forcing her to only look at the ones she didn't do as well in, even though they were still really respectable grades. Telling a perfectionist not to be so hard on themselves is likely to kind of be understood as, oh my God, you've noticed, so I haven't managed my emotions well enough either, so I need to be better at managing my emotions so nobody ever sees it. And it doesn't touch the belief underneath it. Logic really can't touch it because it doesn't live in the logical brain. It kind of lives in the body and the nervous system. And it was learnt before a child even has words for it, and you can't argue it away with words, but you can meet the feeling first before you do anything else. And so even though the mocks, I'm guessing, were quite a while ago now, you can bring it up again. I noticed how those, when you didn't get such good grades in blah, blah, and blah, blah, that really bothered you back then, Do you remember that? So let's start this conversation. So just when you think about that now, tell me what that's like. What does that feel like for you? What do you notice in your body? So just come from an absolute place of curiosity and just listen and don't fix. Do not try to fix. Nobody ever wants to be fixed. They want to be heard and validated. So they work out their own way of fixing or soothing or calming. And so like connection before correction, always. And the curiosity, when you get curious about what her perfectionism does for her, just in a quiet moment, what do you think would happen if you just let those 2 lower grades go and you're upset about it go? Like, what are you afraid of? What do you think it means about you? Help her sort of see what the belief underneath it is, to get some perspective on it. And just normalize having conversations about this subject. And I would say pay attention to what you celebrate at home. Do you do the same as schools? Get really delighted and excited when there's a good grade? Or could you switch that to just be really happy about her being her, putting in a lot of effort, just delight in her ordinary Monday morning self? Shift that balance, and praise process, effort instead of outcome, and be really, like I noticed you kept going when it got difficult. That was really well done, and I really noticed it. That it will help resilience. And own your own imperfection and be like just out loud, be really chilled about it, without drama. God almighty, I got that time completely wrong and turned up at the wrong time, but never mind, so that she learns that making mistakes is okay. We survive it. It's okay. We get over it. It might feel a bit ouch, but we can move on from it. And I think have a motto as a family: done is better than perfect. Because it is. And perfect doesn't exist. You will never get there. So make that a kind of, what's those coat of armor for your family. Make it your coat of armor. Done is better than perfect. So Inga's TV channel, it's done is better than perfect. If it was perfect, it would simply never happen. And I wouldn't be sitting here telling you about this. And just like, make it the texture of your home. Done is better than perfect. Oh, well, so notice yourself criticizing the dinner you've just cooked. Well, but we're eating. Done is better than perfect, but I can learn from this. And next time, I'm definitely going to remember to buy parsley or whatever it is. And, just that separating worth from results. I love you. Not for the results you get or what you do, but just because you're you. And that third one about, doing things on the bus, just keep an eye on that. If they get paralyzed, can't start revision, if they give up on a subject they love, or any of that procrastination, that's a fear of failure. Usually, if I don't do it, I won't get a bad grade. So they might need some more active help if that's the case. So that sense of worth. So the goal, the goal is not to have a daughter who doesn't care about her grades. It's about having a daughter whose entire sense of self isn't on the line every time she opens a results envelope. Having an intrinsic self-worth, being a good enough person no matter what anybody else thinks. It's none of our business what anybody else thinks about us and our performance. Become living proof, become living proof that in your own daily imperfection, you are enough, exactly as you are, with or without all those grades and A's and A stars. The A smudge, as my daughter called it when she opened her. She didn't even know what it was. She was only obsessed about passing, getting that vital C in maths back in the day. Now, I know you're worried about whether she will take this into her GCSEs. And this perfectionism, it's not something we can undo overnight. She didn't learn it overnight and it won't get undone overnight. But with your help and changing the temperature on it and the atmosphere around it and having conversations about it and make it something we can talk about and just help her verbalize it and help her see that it's, she's on a hiding to nothing, I think the expression is, that it's something that we, need to change actively every day. I think for me that's definitely the way that we can start to loosen up this belief, because that really is that, I've had to work so hard with some clients that have just been like, what are you trying to tell me? That I shouldn't work so hard? It makes sense to people that they should be doing it, that they should be working so relentlessly, so hard that you can't play till you've done everything. So they're the signs. Those children that cannot hand in a piece of homework till they have triple checked it for errors and mistakes. And that's where I suggest, if you're seeing that in your family, take that seriously, because it's miserable. Being a perfectionist is a miserable life. And I think as parents we need to address that and just make it something we can talk about. Healthy striving. How can I improve? How can I see that as feedback? That's great. Perfectionism. What will they think? They can think what they like. None of my business. They might think I'm not as good as they are, so what, diddly squat. So I think that is all I've got to say on this subject for today. But do let me know in the comments, #replay. I can come back in and answer them. And as always, if you have questions, put them in what's it called? Messenger, DM me directly. and they'll go on the list. But this one just seemed like it was, alive, because we're nearly at Easter, and we're nearly at the time the revision is looming large for an awful lot of our kids.